gorgeous! Welcome back to another Sims 4 speed building video. I hope you're all doing well. So today we're building a church and cemetery for my save file. Basically, I just needed another cemetery. You might know that in my save file I have already built a cemetery. This one is located in Willow Creek. However, that one is completely stuffed. There's literally no room for any other Sims, and I have quite a few more ancestors to make and to bury. And also I want to leave some additional space. So let's say you're doing like your own legacy challenge or whatever in my save file, and you want a space to bury your Sims, that you would have a cemetery with some additional room. So basically, if you don't know, guys, my save file, I have brought back a lot of Sims 2 and Sims 3 townies and made all of their ancestors, but I didn't want them to hold on to the gravestones, you know, just in their inventory by default. I wanted to make a space to bury them, and the Goth family, obviously, they have a little graveyard in their backyard, but I wanted to have like a sort of official cemetery space to bury all of the ancestors that I have created. And guys, there are so many, so I need a lot of space. So yeah, that's basically why I am building the second one right here. The one in Willow Creek is actually set as a national park, I believe, and they have a couple of lot requirements. I think you need like a picnic table and a barbecue, which I think is a little bit grim for a cemetery. But yeah, in order to get that lot to be somewhat functional, I had to add those things. So I basically created a basement and added those lot requirements there, so that, you know, the lot would actually be functional, basically. So this time around, I decided to take it in a bit of a different direction. So this is actually set as a wedding venue. And I know that seems a bit odd for a cemetery, but hear me out, okay? So this is basically a church, and people have you know, weddings as well as burials or funerals at a church. So I thought it would be kind of realistic in a sense, I guess. I'm not sure how realistic it is to like have the grave so close to the church, but I guess especially in some, you know, European old churches, you might find a cemetery very close by the church, because it's like a kind of sacred ground, if that makes sense. So I'm sorry if I am talking total nonsense. I am not a Christian, so I tried my best to kind of do some research to figure out if a lot like this would be actually realistic. And I guess there are some places similar to this, perhaps not where the graveyard is literally so close to the church. But you know, this is The Sims, and I kind of wanted to make a sort of multi-functional lot, if that makes sense. So yeah, as you can see, the structure of the chapel itself came together quite quickly. It is made of wood right now. I will be changing it to stone, just to blend in with the entire lot a little bit better, make it look, you know, a little bit older, a bit more sturdy, I guess. Because also on this lot, I built a couple of, I think you would call them mausoleums, like the ones, I don't know if you guys have seen, I'm building one right now. I don't know if you guys have seen the originals, which takes place in New Orleans, and you have that cemetery there with a lot of like above ground graves. So I kind of was inspired by that to do something similar here. But as you can see right now, I was messing around quite a bit to actually get it to work and make it look like a proper mausoleum. I'm not sure that in the end it really looks super realistic, but you know, there's only so much you can do in The Sims. So I'm quite happy with how it all turned out in the end. But basically, I chose the taller wall height for the church. So if I wanted to make like a normal room and build like an actual like mausoleum inside, or, well, I guess I'm not really sure how a mausoleum looks on the inside. I guess some of them don't even have doors and they're just basically above ground graves. And I think they did that back in the day to like save space. But yeah, mine have doors for some reason, because otherwise they would look just a bit bare. And I guess some mausoleums have doors. I am not sure. But yeah, I could have maybe chose to build the chapel, built like a second floor, so that it would look like it has like the taller wall height, but it doesn't actually. But then I wouldn't be able to place the windows in the position that I wanted them to be. So I chose the taller wall height, and I kind of, as you can see, I built these mausoleums using the half walls, like the taller half walls, and I filled them up with platforms, and then chose like a debug door, which I had to cut out a lot of footage, but a lot of footage was just me digging through the debug menu, trying to find debug doors and whatnot. And basically the only ones that I could actually find were from Cottage Living and My Wedding Stories, which I think is quite fitting for this lot, because I also used the Cottage Living gravestones as placeholders, but eventually I will be replacing those with like actual graves, which is a bit of a shame, because I do think that the fake gravestones, so the debug gravestones, they look quite a bit better than the real gravestones, the ones that actually hold the Sims ghost in them. They're just a bit too like white for my opinion. They seem a bit like they stick out a bit too much. The color doesn't seem to blend in that nice in a surrounding like this, but it is what it is. Like I really enjoy having like an actual cemetery that your Sims can visit, especially at night when there will be a lot of ghosts roaming around. So yeah, as you can see, the mausoleums are coming together. I guess you can kind of see what I mean, what kind of structures I was having in mind. Like I said, I was very inspired by the New Orleans cemetery in the Garden District that you would see in the originals. I think like the witches, they did like a lot of witchcraft in that place, at least in season 1. I've not really gone any further than that just yet. But yeah, I've been really obsessed with that show though, by the way, and the Vampire Diaries as well. So I guess that's also one of the reasons that I'm really, really excited to build in that New Orleans style, I guess. But yeah, I think this graveyard lot, it doesn't like necessarily look exactly the same as the graveyard lot in New Orleans. Obviously that one doesn't have a chapel, not that I'm aware, at least. I might be wrong there, but it definitely doesn't. I don't think it has like these like actual in-ground graves, or maybe it does, but just like in a different location. I'm also not sure, to be honest. But yeah, I wanted to have a lot of just regular underground graves as well, because that is where you would be able to actually bury your Sims, because the mausoleums, they're just for decorations. Like I mentioned, I filled them up with platforms, so they are not usable at all. I guess you could make them somewhat more usable if you would use like a regular wall, but then again you would have to split up the church into different stories, and the windows just wouldn't really look right. But it is what it is. Yeah, so like I said, I made this into a wedding venue, and I decorated the chapel as such. So I placed a lot of benches and a wedding arch, and I put like an organ, because I feel like that suits the vibe quite well. But the inside of the wedding chapel, it's quite nice looking. It's like actually suitable to throw a wedding here. Like even though it is on a cemetery, it's quite a nice wedding chapel, in my opinion. Like you wouldn't be able to like throw your entire wedding here, because there's not like a kitchen and there's not like a space to dine at or to have your first dance. But the way that you know, weddings or like Christian weddings typically work in the Netherlands is you would go to a church and have the wedding ceremony and then have like the reception somewhere else. And with a Wedding Stories pack, you can actually do that. I'm not sure how broken that pack still is. Like I tried playtesting this and it worked relatively well. I mean, the Sims kind of sat down sort of at the wedding. But yeah, I didn't really run into any major issues, but then again, I just wanted to do like the wedding ceremony itself. I didn't use an officiant or anything because I don't think that would really work on this lot, because I don't really have a lot of space behind the wedding arch because I placed the organ there. But I mean, I guess you could get rid of the organ if you wish to have an officiant at your wedding. That would be fine too. So yeah, and here you can see me doing like the final details of the landscaping. I wanted this place to look like quite old and maybe a little bit spooky, especially at night. So I made sure to use a lot of the cracks that came with the werewolves and the vampire packs. And also I made sure to have some grass growing through the cracks, especially around the mausoleums. I thought that would look, you know, like those structures would have been there for a very, very long time, and maybe it's not been maintained super well. I don't know, it just kind of added to the vibe, I guess. So here you see me changing the back of the church. I wanted to have a little bit more of like a larger stained glass window, basically, because that looks really, really cool, especially from the inside. So I used the My Wedding Stories stained glass windows. I'm not the biggest fan of them. I find the colors on them to be a bit too like bright, a bit too pastel-y, whereas when I'm thinking of stained glass windows, like especially on churches, obviously you would have like religious scenes depicted on them, but like the colors itself are a bit darker and a bit more rich, and not necessarily like the pastel colors that the stained glass windows in the My Wedding Stories pack came with. But yeah, I thought they would have to make do, and I think in the end it looks quite nice. I mean, you see me putting the wedding chapel together right here. Like I said, I mentioned it, I completely play tested it. It works. The only thing that I'm not sure of is if it would work with an officiant, and I'm not sure if you would actually have somebody be able to sit on the organ, because well, there's just not a lot of space, and I had to put the wedding arch back a little bit because where it is right now, it wasn't functional for your Sims. But in the end, you also see some screenshots of the wedding that I played through here, like with just some random tester Sims and like a lot of like random guests that my Sims barely knew, just to play test this lot. But yeah. Also, I was actually struggling a lot with figuring out what way I should place the aisle, because obviously like it has arrows on them, but I wasn't sure in which way the arrows need to point in order to have your Sims walk in the correct direction when they're walking down the aisle. But I think I placed them with the arrows pointing towards the beginning of the aisle. So, and when I was playtesting it, I think I chose the option walk down the aisle, and they actually walk in the correct direction. So just if you're wondering about the same thing, because it was quite a struggle for me and I couldn't find just a simple answer on Google on which way to place the aisle. But I figured it out in the end, so I just play tested it. So yeah, I guess that is the entire speed build, you guys. I'm going to leave this voiceover right here. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please let me know by leaving a like or a comment. And I hope to see you all in the next one. Bye!